Tired of ADHD overwhelm? Let's make life so much better with ADHD. I'm Nachi Felt.
And I'm Dovid Becker. We get it. We've been there, and we love to talk about it. We're on fire, and this is ADHD on Fire. Nachi, how you doing? What's going on?
Thank God. Yeah, really excited. Talk about ambiguity today.
Yeah, I'll be honest. In the green room, I was a little, when they were doing my makeup and all, I was a little ambiguous about what was next on our agenda, and then you clarified for me that it's ambiguity. So we're back to ambiguity, but with a twist. Today we're going to talk about ambiguity and its impact on relationships, which is a really cool topic because relationships are a cool topic for people with ADHD because it's sometimes overlooked. Like we think so much about executive function in ADHD. I'm like, I can't get to work on time and I can't focus and whatever. And it's easy to overlook and forget the impact of ADHD on relationships, which is huge, as our good friend, or not friend, but as Russell Barkley says, he says that what's ADHD? It's a disorder of regulation. So if it's regulation, so then we could start to understand the impact on relationships. And I know you just gave 2 presentations at the excellent Sarah Schneer Wurzweiler men's and women's social work programs. Disclaimer that I run the men's program, and they were really great. They were awesome and got great reviews. So I guess that's a good launching pad for us for today to talk about ambiguity in relationships. Hit it.
So I love ambiguity for 2 reasons. Number one is because it does get a bad rap. Like we constantly beat up ambiguity as it's like the scourge of all evils and it's just terrible. Which it is because it's confusing oftentimes and it could feel a little bit overwhelming and sometimes really overwhelming.
Right. It's an awful word because we use the word ambiguity because it starts with an A, and the Felt method has lots of A's in it, so we're kind of stuck to it. But really, like uncertain, unsure, I think would be a better description. Like stuck, lost, not sure what to do, what to choose, just like a little hesitant in the middle, right? That's ambiguous.
Yeah, I hear that, but like even as like we're talking now, like it's a little bit ambiguous of what we're talking about and why, right? So that itself, I wouldn't say we're uncertain because we know what we're going to talk about. We're talking about ambiguity and then ambiguity in relationships. So I don't know if I would use the word uncertain, hesitant. It does come across as a little bit slower maybe to build up, a little bit slower to kind of explore, hesitant before we move forward. But I think those actually might be good things, meaning it's a sign of caution and intelligent analysis, meaning before you cross the street, you're also ambiguous. Like, wait, are there any cars? So therefore you should be hesitant and uncertain before you cross the street because of the ambiguity.
Tell me if this is right. I think I'm understanding what you're saying. That means that the problem is not the ambiguity in and of itself. The problem is maybe that we get locked into ambiguity. I mean, we can't move past it to make a decision.
I like that, yeah. Meaning it's how we use or how we relate to the ambiguity. So I'm going to just circle that on my own notes because I want to talk about the relationship we have with ambiguity first before we talk about ambiguity within relationships. Because ambiguity first needs to be explored as what is ambiguity?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what is ambiguity? So that I was saying that it's uncertainty, but you're saying it's different. It's not uncertainty.
I'm saying it could include uncertainty. It could lead to uncertainty. But in a way, if we zoom out, right, we think of ambiguity as being a lot of options. And it's not necessarily defined as uncertainty, but definitely has uncertainty to it, meaning I'm not certain which one I'm going to use. So I think uncertainty is a fair thing to put in there. Definitely a fair, working definition of ambiguity. And I just think that all of the words you used were great, meaning sometimes because of the ambiguity and the uncertainty, therefore we're hesitant. You also had some other words before that you used that I thought were helpful.
Yeah, I forgot
confusion,
all of them.
Yes, confusion. These are all great words because that's kind of what happens. But I want to focus more on the positive parts of ambiguity, especially if we're looking at it through the lens of an ADHD brain. So our brain is like super awesome and it's like very fast seeking of stimulation and always looking to kind of, notice or grab or maximize some sort of dopamine or something fun or exciting, the stimulating part of us. It's just awesome. So part of
Hmm.
that means that our brain is pulling in copious amounts of information, like tons and tons of information. This is a great line we got from our good friend, Dr. Dotson. Oh, great guy. So he talks about omnipotential and
Yeah.
how the ADHD brain is not limited to just being like, let's say, a two-way street, right? Where information's coming in on one lane, information's coming out in the other lane. Now, it would be a lot more simple to live your life that way, I guess, right? Because you just have to look at data going on one lane in, one lane out. And the
Hmm.
ADHD brain is more like a NASCAR, like 7-lane high speed race. So there's just tons and tons of data, right? The example I use is like a California freeway. I grew up in California. We had these massive highways, which had like 10 lanes, right? 5 in each direction, and just tons of cars because we're all about, emissions and being green in California. So there's just so much. If you look at each car as like a piece of information, there's so much data going along that superhighway. And it's a similar thing for the ADHD brain. There's just so much information.
Fascinating, because I think of it as a freeway, like you're describing, but someone accidentally put traffic in all four directions at once. So everything is just like darting around and across
Yeah,
each
that's
other. And
California.
you're just trying to get out of the way. Right. Exactly. Yeah. So you're thinking in so many ways, shapes, and forms, and you're just like all over the map. And maybe that, I guess, the positive is you come up with all these creative, great ideas because you're thinking in ways that no one else is, solving
Yes.
problems that no one else can.
Yes, 1,000%. And
Omnipotential.
that's one of our strengths. The ADHD strength is that creativity, the being out of the box, the thinking under pressure because we can't not think. So it's just even under pressure, we'll just think of many more concepts or many more ideas that are out of the box.
Hmm. Okay.
And so I love that part of ambiguity. I think that being like that ambiguity holds within it the promise of potential.
The promise of potential. I
I
like
know I
it.
felt like Deepak Chopra when I said
Yeah,
that. I was like, wow, I'm so deep. Ooh.
totally
Um,
deep. So then, what's our relationship with ambiguity? Go ahead.
so again, what I love about ambiguity and really about this concept of having a relationship with yourself and the different parts of ourself is that it's really up to us. We determine that relationship. It's not I would have said it's unidirectional, that just goes in one way. It's us towards ambiguity or us towards a part of ourselves, but it really is bidirectional because the way we treat ambiguity will oftentimes determine how ambiguity affects us. Meaning, if I view ambiguity as just confusion, overwhelm, well, then that's usually how ambiguity is experienced by me, right? But if I see it as holding the promise of potential, then I'm like, ooh, that's cool. Ooh, here's another idea. I wonder about that. Ooh, wow. Let me organize this so I don't feel overwhelmed. Let me harness the ambiguity here.
It sounds so vague to me, but can we make it practical? What's the like? How does this, like, bring it down? We have ambiguity and a relationship with ambiguity. What's an example?
So, for instance, let's say learning, right? If a person's trying to learn information,
Okay.
so pick any topic. Let's just do, because we both run, classes for higher education, right? So we teach psychology and that kind of stuff. So let's pick a psych class, right? So let's say we're teaching psychopathology, and we want students to learn about different diagnoses or diagnostic differentials. Ooh,
Good.
that's a lot of ambiguity, right? There's a
Hmm.
lot there. How do we tell the difference between anxiety and ADHD? They both have a hard time concentrating, both feel like kind of a little jumpy and restless and, kind of irritated or irritable sometimes. Like, how do you tell the difference?
Hmm.
So that's all right away. I would feel like, oh my gosh, that's confusing. What do I do? But I would say, whoa, 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 there's so many different options here. Let me see what I can learn about this. How could I understand it in a deeper way that I could see it differently? And so then it's almost like when I feel that initial feeling of confusion, it's, do I now feel triggered by like all of the past traumas, the ghosts of traumas past? right? Or am I able to say, listen, I've done amazing things in my life with my ADHD, and I've figured out weird, cool stuff, and I've gotten my places and myself to places I've never even dreamed of. Let's see, what could we discover here?
Okay, good, but I want to make it simpler. I get to work and I don't know, like I'm thinking about what should I do, and I have three options. One option, I have three projects, and I'm ambiguous about which project is the one I should start with, right? So my relationship to ambiguity means what?
Okay, which means either I feel overwhelmed, which
For
is not
sure.
what we want, right?
True
Or
story.
we feel possibility, potential. So if you feel potential, I go, all right, which one of these do I want to work on? Not which one of these do I have to work on? Which one do I want? And it's a simple, stupid internal language change, but it really is signifying a different attitude.
Good. So point number one from Nachi, I got it now, is a positive reframe. Like we're just reframing. Stop feeling overwhelmed by choices. Feel excited by choices.
By
Feel
potential.
or
Yeah.
positive about choices. Look, I have so many things I can do. Now I can pick something that I would like. But I'm just curious, why is that going to help me choose?
Really, you're always going to have to make that decision based off of what is going to have the best impact or most strategic value for you. And you have to do that regardless of whether or not you have to or you want to. But wouldn't you be
Okay.
happier if you wanted to do it rather than you felt like you had to do it?
Yeah. Yeah, true. Okay, so I'm good. Relationship with ambiguity is important because everyone thinks of it as horrible and like, oh, I can't make decisions. But you can reframe that from I can't make decisions to look, hey, look, I have great choices. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess if I go to I don't know, if my wife sends me shopping for Jello and I see Geffen and Lieber's and I'm like, I don't know, like Geffen has a nicer box. Lieber's has less calories. Like I don't know. So then I
I
could
just go
reframe that
cheapest.
into. There you went and decided for me. You're gonna go with the cheapest. You're kidding.
Always.
I might go with the most expensive because it's probably better if they're charging more. They must have finer ingredients, a better process, less bugs. I don't know. But okay, but I could reframe that as, oh look, so many options for Jello. Yes.
It's honestly, I know it sounds almost weird, but I had a mentor once who was kind of quite the studious young man when he was in his youth, and literally would stay in the study hall day and night, just learning and studying and learning and studying. When he got married, um, so he went shopping with his wife for the first time in I don't know how many 10 years. I don't know, this is when the last time he walked out of the study hall. And as they're walking down the aisles, he's like looking around and he goes, "Wow, so many different types of the same thing. That's so interesting. There are like 6 different ketchups and like 29 different mustards. Wow." And like again, it sounds like he's high, but it is kind of a beautiful thing to think about, which is, oh my gosh, we live in a world where we do have so many options. So what are you in the mood for? Honey Dijon? Are you in the mood for spicy brown? Like what are you in the mood for? There are many options. Now, obviously there's this thing called choice paradox, right? Developed by a psychologist I think a few decades ago, where you talked about the idea that when you do have too many options, it is overwhelming.
That's me.
And that
I'm
is true.
Paradox. Hmm. I'm Choice Paradox. Hi, that's me. My name is David Becker, and I'm Choice Paradox.
Hi, Dovid.
Okay, thank you. So now that I've reframed my relationship with ambiguity, which is really actually good, I'm starting to like this now because I'm realizing that right instead of that negative message, I always tell myself, "Oh, there you go again." Like indecisive. I'm able to make choices. I look at it in a more positive way and say, like, no, it's great. I have a lot of good choices, and maybe ADHD contributes to having more choices because I can think of more things to do that most people are just like, "Ooh, I don't know, like. What am I going to do today? I don't know, like, and I'm like thinking of 18 different things to do. So, okay, so that's cool. And now so I'm big, I'm strong, I'm capable, I can make choices. It has an impact relationships
So
in real
happy you
world.
asked. Okay, so the connection is like this. Each time we view an opportunity to choose,
Mm-hmm.
right, what in Hebrew we would call bechira, right? So every time we have the opportunity to choose, we're now exercising something. We're exercising a part of us that really determines how we live our life. So a lot of relationships is going to be about how we present ourselves and how we're present in our life and how we're present in the lives of others. And a lot of times it's going to be dependent upon how we're present with ourselves. So if the way I view choices is just choice paradox, overwhelm, shutting down, right? So then you're not going to get that far in relationships either, because you know what has a million different choices? Relationships. It's funny. I remember once looking at job career options for people with ADHD, and at the top of the list, right, it goes sales, paramedic or whatever, and then teacher. I was like, what, teacher? And then it explains, it says, because the teacher has to make, I think they had some statistic for like, like 1,200 decisions throughout the day of the course of one day of teaching. Because every single
Wow.
class, there's a million different students who like, how are you going to respond to that one who's misbehaving, to that one who's spacing out, to that one who's sleeping? Or are you going to present this material, not present? How are you going to do it? Inflection, tone, this, that. I was like, whoa, that is so cool. And so I guess it will make sense that those of us who are really amazing ADHD teachers, it's because our brain is hardwired to like just have the awesome constant stimulus. But it's crazy to think about how many decisions you have to make every single day. Right now, if I was single and by myself, right, with no friends, no romantic partners, no marital, relationships, right, hopefully just one, then it would be kind of, I would really have much less decisions to make, because I could, kind of just wear the same thing every day. No one's telling me you stink or you can't wear that. I could kind of just do the same thing, wake up whenever I end up waking up. There's no decision. Should I get up now? Should I not? It's just whenever I just kind of feel too sick to stay in bed any longer. Right. And just roll out in my PJs, eating whatever I want to eat, whenever I want to eat it. Or really, there's no choice there. It's just whatever I've left in my pantry or what's left over in my fridge. So, like, in a way, there's much less choice paradox, right? There's much less opportunity for overwhelm in a way, right? As opposed to if I had a spouse who needs me to be up at a certain time or wants me to prepare a certain coffee or breakfast or have to be at work on time. There are so many more decisions that come with that. And really the key here is, how do I make decisions? Do I run away from them? Do I shy away from them and kind of shrivel up into the safety of my own little tiny personal cave, right? Or am I able to kind of get out there, push myself to make decisions and be present in my own life? And there, I could then be present in the lives of others and be a meaningful, contributing part of a relationship. Was
So
this
we're
too long? Should I break it down?
No, yeah, but for sure break it down. But we're connecting relationships to ambiguity because, yeah, break it down.
Because relationships are so ambiguous. And at the core of it is really our own ability to face the discomfort, to be present in the discomfort of having to make a choice.
To be present in the discomfort of having to make a choice. Be practical. So tell me how
All
that
right.
plays out
Should I
in my life.
get her? Do I text her that I'm going to be late? Or do I hope that she doesn't notice so I don't get yelled at again? Text her. Always text her.
Right. So wait. So you're ambiguous about what to do, and therefore you do nothing, and doing nothing is the wrong decision.
Usually, right? So let's just put it out in context, right? You're running late, right? You told your wife you'd be back by 6, right? Or by 1:04.
What else is
You
new?
told her
Yeah.
you're going to be home by 1:04. And now you're looking at the clock and you're like, wow, it's 12:38 and we're just getting started. So let's see. Hopefully this doesn't get too interesting so that I don't get sucked in time blindness my way through it. All right, ambiguity. Now you're noticing it's 12:58 now. It's been 20 minutes. Time
Okay.
did
Okay.
fly. What do I do
Right.
now? Do I text her that I'm going to be late and then I'm basically getting disappointment now? Or do I hope that everything works out and I come back and hopefully there won't be any disappointment, but at the risk of greater disappointment later? That's a
So
choice.
that, I mean, listen, I hear that, but there's a few other things playing in here. First of all, with time blindness, the likelihood is I might not even be thinking all this. Like I might not even be ambiguous. I might be just oblivious, right? Which we could say oblivious and start it with a oblivious. I might just be oblivious. That's one, and two is also with the choice there. Yeah, and so right, I hear. Okay. So if it does pop up in my head, then you're saying always notify because that's a better option. Disappoint early. That's really that Tuckman concept, right? If you're better off disappointing early, so that people have a chance to replan than disappointing later, which is worse.
Yeah,
But you have to be ready to face the discomfort of that disappointment.
and that's what really often prevents us from texting her that we're running late, is the ambiguity of our wait, do I want to handle the discomfort now or later, and the avoidance of pain. I don't want the discomfort now.
Right. So this is like avoidance in relationships, of avoiding bringing things to the surface because it's easier to avoid and just let things simmer.
Yeah.
And then eventually they blow, but okay. Like I guess.
Let's just think about big picture ambiguity in relationships, right? Should I marry her? Should I not? Do I stay hanging out with that friend who always makes fun of me whenever we're together with other friends or not? These are big
Mhm.
questions, and there's a lot of ambiguity.
So how are we solving it? You're saying face discomfort. That's really the message here.
Always. That's what I'm always saying.
Is face discomfort. Okay. So now, because I'm thinking ADHD versus neurotypical, let's say the average couple is going to into lots of this also, because they'll also have avoidant patterns in their relationships. Different with ADHD is it'll probably come up much more because of the cycle of ambiguity, because people with ADHD often get stuck in like indecisiveness, and like they don't know what to do, they don't know decisions, so they end up doing nothing, and something is better than nothing. Well, I wonder, because I feel like sometimes impulsivity might play in the mix, and it might get you to do something really stupid. So you might, like 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 text your wife, "I'm coming home late, and it's your fault," which you might be better off doing nothing than that. So how do you right? Like, so I guess we're back to how do you break out of that cycle in a way that's impactful and effective and less likely to get you um, in the doghouse.
Yeah, well, I think the first step is being aware of it. Every like self-awareness is power, right? To quote Kurt Vonnegut, right? The man who is most self-aware is the Superman. Right? Meaning that self-awareness, if you're not aware of what's going on inside you, then all of your abilities, and it's not worth it if it can't be activated. Right? So it's only if I'm aware of what's going on inside me that allows me to then potentiate, to use the potential that I have.
Although you just tripped another ADHD tripwire in executive function, which is metacognition, which is sort of like self awareness.
Well,
So we're
yeah, I'm
not
so
too
happy
good
we
at it.
actually got up to this. I wrote it down on my thing that I wanted us to talk about it. So I don't know how our brains do this, but we got here, which was I wanted to talk about the distinction between self awareness and self absorption. I find that with ADHD, let's just talk about myself. I tell everyone I'm super self aware, most self aware ever, the most self aware.
Mm.
Trust me, believe me, I'm the most self aware. But oftentimes, my wife helps me realize it's me really, I'm just the most self absorbed. I'm living in my head very much so, that I think I'm self-aware because I'm always aware of myself, but self-awareness isn't limited to just what's going on in my head. It's how do we experience, or how are we aware of the experience, how other people experience us, and that's what's really tough for us.
So you could experience it's the perspective taking of what the other person is experiencing
Yeah, and
in
that's really
relationship
hard
to
for
you.
us. It's
By the
really
way, I
hard.
find that a lot of times if I ask, someone I'm working with who has ADHD this question of like, what do you think it was like for them? I get like a blank look, and they're like, how should I know? I'm not them. And then I go down this rabbit hole, is right. Like, of course, I know you're not them, but like, if you could imagine, like, what do you think it was like for them? And they give me the blank look and say, how should I know? I'm not them. And at some point, after doing this like 7, 8 times, it gets old. And then I realized, like, it's really, really hard for this person to think about what something would be like if it's not clear, black and white, and about themselves.
Because there's a
Like, I
lot of
can't think outside.
ambiguity. There's a lot of ambiguity
What?
about what other people are
Where did
thinking about.
ambiguity come in? Oh, I hear. Okay.
Within
That's a different.
ourselves, it's a lot of times it's very comfortable. We know a lot of our patterns. We know a lot of the stuff we're usually feeling. Either I always feel like a loser, or I'm always insecure, right? I relate with the second one. So then that's my it's very comfortable. I've reduced the options. I'm not as easily overwhelmed. But with other people, I have no idea. That's very ambiguous for me. I have no clue what other people, because there could be a multitude of options, and some of them might be very painful.
So, question, if I'm going to get better at relationships, I have to become more self aware. But if ADHD makes me less self aware, then how do I strengthen my self awareness muscle so that I can be self aware, not just of myself, but also not to be self absorbed, so that I could be aware of what it's like for, let's say, my spouse, my friend, my neighbor, my boss, my coworker,
Okay.
my supervisee.
So it's 3 words. Well, it's going to be 4, but the and doesn't count. Shut up
Do they
and
all
listen.
start with A?
No, shut
Shut
up
up and
and
listen.
listen.
Shut up and listen. Shut up and listen. Shut up and listen. Shut up and listen. I got it. Okay. Shut up and listen. Okay. So
Allows us
Nachi,
to then
give me a
take
second.
in data. It
Nachi,
allows us to
Nachi,
take in
Nachi,
data.
Nachi, Nachi. Shut up and listen. Okay. Um, Let me try this out for a second. Okay. So if I shut up and listen, and then I'll be able to hear what other people are thinking and feeling or whatever. I got it, I got it. Get them to tell me how I'm impacting them. It just clicked.
Yes,
All right,
yes,
shut
exactly.
up and listen. Okay. Let me shut up and listen. What did you want to say?
That it's something that I stole from like there's like adaptive daily living skills, right? The idea of like kind of how do you live with other people when you don't necessarily have those skills, right? So one of those is if I don't know what you're thinking, the best way to find out is to ask you. If I don't know what you're feeling, the best way to find out is to ask, right? And the best way to know then what the person is thinking or feeling is to listen. So oftentimes when we ask people, hey, what was that like for you? Especially if we know that, hey, this is not our strong point, so we're alerted to do that. It allows us to develop data. And once we have data, we can start making patterns. And I'm no longer in the same world of ambiguity because I'm starting to create more clarity for myself.
Gotcha. Okay. I mean, I guess my only challenge with the shut up and listen plan, as you're describing it, is that it's also really hard for people with ADHD to shut up and listen because of the impulsivity, which makes them blurters. So you're like,
Yes.
I guess you know what. I'm coming to the awful realization, and I need you to dig me out of this. Is that relationships require lots of executive function skills that are weak in ADHD. So strengthening those executive function skills are going to help the relationship, but you need all of them at once. It's like I need to restrain. I need to not be impulsive so that I can shut up and listen. I need to I need to have the metacognition or self-awareness and right, okay. Yeah.
It's a
I'm
lot,
feeling
but the good news is we already took care of some of it, right? We just told everyone who's listening that we kind of struggle with the whole self awareness thing and that ambiguity could be either very scary or something that has a lot of potential and help benefit for us. That's one
okay.
huge step forward because now I know, hey, this is not my strong suite. So this is something I could kind of talk to
Practice.
people about. Yeah. And ask them and listen and start growing and getting better at. And then every day I'll get a little bit better.
So if you're in a relationship with someone, it's kind of like, first of all, owning this. Like, this is hard for me. Like, it's hard for me to know what you're thinking and feeling. Like, I don't do that as well as some people do. So I need you to tell me like what you're thinking and feeling a little bit more than you would for the average person you're relationship to. And
While
also, if you know,
also being aware of all the RSD landmines.
right, rejection sensitivity, true, because I might get triggered by your honesty
Feedback.
and then right by your feedback. And also I need to on my own, like I can't put this on you really, but I need to shut up and listen so that I can hear what you're saying and absorb it, and that way I'm absorbing you instead of just absorbing me. So instead of being self-absorbed, I become omni-absorbed
That's really cute.
or amni-absorbed, so that it can start with an E.
Or going
And
from self-absorbed to self-aware.
which are right, absorbed from absorption to awareness. Okay. So now we have the blueprint for improving relationships. So here we have it. Let me summarize and see if I got this right. Um, Step one to improving relationships with an ADHD brain is to slow yourself down so that you can shut up and listen, so that you can start to really hear what the other person is thinking and feeling, so that you can add that data to your understanding of what you're thinking of feeling, blend it together, and then decide how to respond. And along the way, it's critical to always face discomfort. And the way you face discomfort is by engaging and not disengaging. So if you're stuck in that ambiguous cycle of should I engage or should I not engage, it's always better to engage, with a caveat that you don't want to engage too impulsively, because then you might just say something stupid. So you need to start with the shut up and listen and then engage. And maybe over time you'll know how to do things better.
Yeah.
How's that?
And like a helpful piece of advice for the how to engage, often engage with humility. Humble engagement can usually never go you wrong. Like if you're engaging with the wait, I don't know that, or I'm kind of stuck, I don't know what you mean, or I really want to understand you, but I don't feel like I'm grasping why you're so upset. Could you just help me understand? I really, really want to know.
That's the right way to do it. What's the wrong way to do it look like?
What's your problem? I don't even get what the issue is. Why are you making such a big
Oh,
deal
okay.
out of it?
I got it. So it's don't be defensive.
Yeah. Yeah,
All
allow
right.
yourself to have that acceptance of yourself and that this is one of our issues. Like self-awareness is not one of our strong suits. So be humble, reach out for help.
And it seems to me that all of these concepts, ideas, tools, and skills would also help people who have neurotypical relationships.
Yeah, I often say that anything that helps people with ADHD is a sure thing to help someone without it, because it's so much more highly concentrated for those of us with ADHD, because we need it to be pinpoint accuracy to really help us sift through. But it means it for sure helps the neurotypicals. Come on, how could leaning forward with humility ever not be helpful for a
True.
neurotypical?
True. So what I want to cover in our next episode, if either of us remember, this could be fun, would be what happens when in a marriage when both spouses have ADHD.
Wow, that is going to be
Isn't that cool?
fireworks.
It's not so typical, but I've seen it, and I feel like it's even different. Like it's a whole different game that we have to learn to play. Yeah, so there's our teaser for next time, if either of us remember. Nachi, this has been amazing. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your depth, your knowledge, your insight, your humor, your whatever. I hope I managed to shut up and listen long enough for someone out there to learn something. And that's all I'm going to say for today.
Look at you, David, being on time, watching the clock. Not bad.
That's
You
right.
beat your time blindness. How'd you do it?
I think that I have to really, really get home, so I just watched the clock very carefully. It was urgent. The
You
fourth
kept
C
feeling
crisis.
the future feelings.
Yeah, 10-4.
Got it.
Be good.